Does it look like there's an end in sight for that conflict?
Maybe. Depending on how the counteroffensive from Ukraine plays out, it's just so difficult because, if Putin loses, he's done. I don't like. I don't really know how he can stay in power with a mistake this big. I don't know how you can admit defeat if you're Russia. And they are losing, and they have been losing, and they're not going to get anywhere near what they were hoping for out of this entire thing. And so now, like, their only move is to try to wait us out. What they want to do is wait until, because there are some people, we're talking about the leftists in the government that are against defense spending, but there are people on the right too that have been, for whatever reason, I'm not going to speculate as to why, but for some reason against Ukraine and pro-Russia. Those people exist. And I think, they really want to wait to see, like, the dream for Vladimir Putin would be to get Trump back in office. Like that would go a long way for him in terms of getting the West to back off its arms supplies.
Yeah, because it's not even. I mean, it's basically we're in a war with Russia.
Oh yeah,
We
100%.
just
It's a
aren't
proxy
using.
war.
Yeah, we just aren't using. Well, it sounds like the leaked document said there are some special forces in
There are
there,
special forces. There always have been.
but
Yeah.
they're direct. So the technology and the equipment and the money to pay for it is all coming from the U.S.
Yes.
And we're telling them like, hey, so it's basically we're just like we're not pressing the button, but we're like, hey,
We're doing
press
everything
that button.
but. Yeah, we're loading the gun, cocking it, and hand it to them and going,
And telling them who to point it at.
Yeah, exactly. We've been giving them, obviously, information, satellite information, all kinds of information about, Russian troop positions. Elon Musk's Starlink has been providing them with internet connectivity. We've been training them, Ukrainian soldiers. They had Ukrainian soldiers in, like, Omaha, Nebraska, training on American weaponry. We have them in Poland. We're bringing these guys out of the country to train them and then sending them back in, teaching them how to, once they know how to use weapons. And by all reports, they're very fast learners. So, they're going out there, and it is 100% a proxy war. It's one I personally believe is worth fighting. I think, it's been a tremendous success from that perspective to see, Russia undercut the way it's been and not have to expend a single American life about it. If it's just money and guns, we got plenty of those. This is America, man.
Well, yeah, guns, yes, but money, the money seems to be where that if the faucet of money stops, which people aren't happy about spending all this money because it's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
And I don't know. I wonder. I don't know the math on it, but if they would have, not funded you, like, I don't know, maybe it only would have gave us an extra week in the debt ceiling
yeah,
debate. But it's like at some point the money is going to dry up, or it's other, Americans are going to notice that, like, hey, wait a minute, you want to tax me more so that we can fight this war over
but
there?
I don't know that the expenditure on Ukraine in particular is ever going to be that great. I mean, if you look at the actual budget outlays, I mean, we're spending magnitudes more on, Medicare and Social Security,
right,
and all that stuff. Even though I know $30 billion is a big number. But at the same time, in the context of our budget, it's not.
30 million or 30 billion?
Yeah. Like, in the context of the U.S. budget, when you're talking about, a trillion, we have $1 trillion in debt or whatever, more than that even. And it's like, I don't know, like, it just doesn't really, again, it's kind of a drop in the bucket. And it's kind of like, if we do talk about government waste, like, where can't you find it? It's the same thing. It's, it's like the same thing as the price gouging. It's like, if you want to make a thing of it in this particular instance, sure, you can. It's there. But it's everywhere else too. Like, there's plenty of government, bloat. Like,
Oh yeah.
So, but that would be the only way. And even then, though, to get back just to the question of, like, how it ends. At that point, even I think it would still just be a bloody stalemate, and that's because Russia at this point has kind of expended all of its resources. It's running low on troops. It already conscripted like 300,000 troops, and it's already burning through those guys. And then their tanks, they've been using Soviet era tanks. They have Soviet planes. It's just all of it's already just they don't have enough to get anything other than what they currently have. Any notion that like even if we stopped funding them tomorrow, Russia would not have enough juice to get to Kiev. They don't. And so it would just kind of be a stalemate. But that's also been a kind of thing with the United States too. It's that we've done enough to help Ukraine survive and repel Russia. We haven't done enough to have Ukraine win. There's still stuff we've been holding back on. Longer range missiles or more advanced weapons platforms, F-16s, that we've held back out of fear of antagonizing Russia. If those fears kind of dissipate, because with every new arms shipment, Russia pushes back its own red line. That they've been threatening to use nukes, right, this whole time. Well, if you do that, we're gonna go nuke. We're gonna go nuclear. But they haven't done it, and it doesn't seem like the more every day that seems less and less like a plausible threat from them.
Well, because it seems like every other week you hear about it.
Russian losses and new stuff, and they say don't send the tanks, and we send the tanks, and nothing happens. So, that could push it. Dissent in Russia, Putin literally being toppled, that could happen. And because now we're talking about these drone attacks on Moscow, like this is already an unpopular war. Like not a lot of Russians are going to tell you that because they'll be thrown in jail, but it's not a popular war. Everybody kind of even like Russia's fiercest propagandists struggle to justify this war. And so, like, for regular people whose sons are going over there and dying constantly into this meat grinder that is the Ukrainian front line right now, there's already a great amount of dissatisfaction with that. I mean, there have been people fleeing the country, obviously, for, to just get out or to avoid being conscripted themselves. And now the more vulnerable Moscow looks with things like drone attacks, that brings the war right to your doorstep, and that's something. It was kind of like when the U.S. did invade Iraq. If you could imagine, if Iraq started sending drones back and attacking the suburbs in New York City or something, it would be like, whoa, like maybe we shouldn't. What's going on here? All of a sudden that it becomes a reality for you. It's not like we're just sitting on the TV watching our planes bomb.
Well, he can't argue that we're winning. Or
Yeah,
that we're crushing those
no.
in there. Like, wait a minute, it seems like they're getting closer to
yeah,
us.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so it's unpopular, and now it could get very unpopular, and it depends on how long. Like Vladimir Putin is basically kept in power by this group of oligarchs, and he's been able to get very far and have a really tight grip on that country because he's been able to make them money. He's been able to keep them wealthy and expand their wealth. And, it's a kleptocracy is all it is. And if those guys turn on him, or if they start telling him things he just doesn't want to hear and gets rid of them, and it gets to a point where he is just kind of, this lone madman, or it would depend on if, say, he decides out of desperation, I am going to do it, I am going to nuke Ukraine. Are there going to be people that go, no? Are there going to be people in the Kremlin that we're not going to go that far?
Well, and they want Ukraine. They don't want to nuke it.
Exactly.
Into a wasteland.
Yeah, like I said, it would be like if the United States dropped a nuke on Mexico. Your neighbors, right? It's going to blow back. It's going to, depending on which way the wind's going, this could be bad for you too. And what good is it going to do for you to basically take the territory that now is just a radioactive gravesite? What is the...
That would have to be basically he's a lunatic.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm taking you all down with
exactly.
me.
It's just kind of like the only way he could see to bringing an end to the war and saving face, any kind of face, would be to do something so horrendous that, it leverages that ceasefire deal into place, and they can try to lock what little territory they have left of Ukraine down, maybe keep Crimea or whatever, and just try to freeze it, because at this point, like I said, they don't have enough power to do anything more than cling desperately to what they have and are fast losing. So I think any kind of dissent in the Kremlin, if people looked at that, and also if they did go nuclear, the repercussions I think from the West would just be severe. I mean, and I think even then there have been points where you can even have seen a little bit of fracturing, a little bit of space in the kind of Russia-China relationship. Like China goes along with this because it's good for them to have a hostile Russia, you know, buffering them in Europe and the West and to keep them occupied. And if we have to worry about the Black Sea, that's fewer resources we have to send to the Pacific. Uh, but even they are kind of like, this didn't go the way you planned. This has really backfired. This is getting ugly. And at some point it becomes too costly to even be associated with Russia. And I think if they went, and launched a tactical nuclear weapon, I think even their friends, even China, would probably step back and go, that, we didn't sign up for all that. And then Russia would really be alone. Because like I said, their only lifeline throughout the economic sanctions has been these other kind of, pariah states that are willing to navigate around them and negotiate around them. And so if they even lost that, then I think they'd be out of everything. You lose everything at that point.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.